Hello. So, this is the Bible study for September 20th, 2022. And our scripture this week is from Psalm 27. And it's Psalm 27:13. It's a wonderful verse. I would have despaired unless I had believed that I would see the goodness of the Lord in the land of the living. This verse is very special to me. I, at different times in my life, just like all of us, have had issues to deal with and various things going on. And I wonder what needed to share with you. And I really believe this is it. One of the most devastating times I had was when we heard the news that our son had died suddenly. He had 3 children. He was doing well. He had a business partner, and he had just made business cards and designed it himself. And we thought things were going well, and got news right at the time, the weekend that COVID had hit, and the governor on that last weekend in March in 2020 shut the state of Georgia down. That's when we got the news that our youngest son had died suddenly. And of course, it was devastating for us. But I didn't know where to go but to turn to God. I had the support of a loving husband who's actually celebrating his birthday today. And I had family, but people didn't come around. My cousins couldn't come visit. My church people didn't come because of COVID. Everyone was afraid we were going to get it and give it to somebody. And I'm not saying that's wrong. I'm just saying it left us pretty much by ourselves. Our son Andrew came. We have an adopted son, Mike, from Smyrna. He came over. But we didn't have many people here. The grandkids were with us, Adam's children, his 3 beautiful children. And that was pretty much it. So it wasn't like I felt abandoned from other people because I understood why they weren't standing there with us in person. But it was still the fact that they weren't. It wasn't, I'm not judging. I'm just saying that's just the way it was. And so God, in a miraculous way, because I believed in his goodness, I know that's why it happened. He reminded me of when he'd been with me in times past. He reminded me of promises he had kept, and he was right here. And it was as if he lifted any regret I had as a mother about the way I'd raised Adam, about any relationship issues, because we have very similar personalities. So we could really get into an argument. And it wasn't a good argument. So I always hated that, but it was the truth, and it's what happened. But this verse really sums it up. I would have despaired unless I had believed that I would see the goodness of the Lord in the land of the living. I knew that God could bring something good out of his untimely death. I knew that my husband and I would be closer because we would work on it. We'd been here for each other and we'd work on it. I knew that I would be there for my grandkids and they would survive. God gave me the peace knowing that they would survive. Even though it was very hard. I mean, I can't imagine how hard it was for them. I mean, I'm a mother, but it was their dad, and they were young. Lydia was 8, and Mason was 14. And Connor was 17. So they were young, and God, though, was good. I was reminded that God always has a plan A. He doesn't need a plan B because his plan A is good. And I was reminded of another verse that God always works everything out for good for those who love him and are called according to his purpose. But let us remember when we are in despair, even if it's not from grief, it might be from other things. It might be because we're struggling so much with financial issues or relationship issues or unemployment or what could happen or illness or, oh, there's so many things we struggle with. A lot of my friends really struggle with the way the world's turned out right now and what's happening in the world. And they're very afraid and they live in that place of fear. But we have a God who's good. And we are not to be in despair. We are to wait and see the goodness of the Lord in the land of the living. The second verse there in verse 14 is, wait for the Lord, be strong and let your heart take courage. Yes, wait for the Lord. And that's what we are to do, because God's plan A is miraculous. And He will guide us. He will love us unconditionally, and He does love us unconditionally. His presence is always with us. His mercy never fails. And He speaks to us when we need Him to do so. So remember that and wait on Him. And whether you are in despair or not, remember that you will see the goodness of God in the land of the living. God bless and have a great week.